Well, what's the crack, everybody? How are you getting on? And welcome to another episode of the Cracked Rugby Podcast. How you doing? Welcome. Your host here, Tom O'Mahony. Oh, what a lovely time we're living in. Loads and loads of rugby. Welcome. Thank you very much to everybody who's gotten in contact so far. Nice. Lovely to see it. This, of course, if you're joining for the very first time, is a light-hearted take. A bit of a lighter view to rugby. You know, a lot of them are very, very journalistically and correct. I may be wrong on several occasions. I try to stay as unbiased as I can. But, you know, it may or may not happen, you know. And you can't get to see all of the rugby, but I definitely will watch the rugby that I can actually support or whatnot. So I may end up talking a bit more than... But sure, who doesn't? Who doesn't? We'll rattle around as much as we possibly can. The big stuff over the weekend. I mean, there's things like Mullet Watch. You know what I mean? It kept an eye out for some serious mullets this weekend. I couldn't actually... There's a few getting there, but hardly worth noting. We do, of course, have a clatter of the week. There was a couple of tasty ones. Honourable mention to, I think it was between Claremont and Racing, possibly. And it was an accidental hookery nut crunch, as they call it. Somebody was just getting swung around in a tackle. He ran into his own player with his head and cracked a guy right in the nuts. Just funny to watch, which it's always funny to watch, but you're all very welcome. If you want to know any more about me, you wonder what the hell is this fella doing? For the longest run, I've had a podcast called Buckshot, which we're now up on 201 episodes coming out this Friday. We took a brief break between 200 and 201 for the first time in 4 years. And of course, I'm with the Tom and Jerry show, which of course me is Tom and Jerry is Jerry McBride of Waterford Whispers. And we have a show where we basically deep dive into subjects that really interest us, from the possible beatification of Dolly Parton to, you know, death row last meals and stuff, where we do a deep dive from a hilarious point of view into subjects that just interest us. So if you want to have a look, I'll put my link tree down in the show notes and have a gander on through. There is, of course, an option of the Patreon, which helps support the podcast. I will be eventually putting these videos and interviews behind the paywall. But for now, it's all free. But if you do want to get on board, there is a load of ad-free content over on the Patreon page, as well as videos from loads and loads of interviews that I've done over on Buckshot, as well as that I will be having a live chat with the Patreons on Sunday night. So there you go. That's the crack. Welcome, everybody. This is the Wednesday, the 6th of October, 2021, and we've just had round 2 of the URC. The Rugby Championship down south has wrapped up. I was to have a guest yesterday, but just before the day got away from me. The day got away from me with other recordings and stuff like that, and comedy gigs and stuff. I just couldn't link it up. Just couldn't link up. Sometimes that happens. So it'll be just me today. We delighted to have the last 2 guests on, but I'm going to put up a bunch more of the rugby interviews from the likes of Dennis Leamy. Oh, Dennis, actually, congratulations. He just got moved from, I think, the under 20s, I think, to the Leinster skills coach. I think he's become the senior squad skills coach. So good friend of the podcast, friend of mine from back in the day, and a monster man. Would you believe it? So there's a rake of rugby ones. I'm going to throw them up here, so that'll be all in one spot on the audio files of those. So it'll be all in one spot. But if you want to go see the videos of, maybe I probably don't have videos of the old ones, but there's a good few videos of rugby player ones that are up on the Patreon page, but I'll chuck them up here just to keep dot them out throughout the next 2 weeks or so. Just dot a few of them throughout. There's a good dozen of them at the very least that I think you'll enjoy. Anyway, let's move on into today's URC from the weekend. Let's move on into today's chat. Up first was this evening is, of course, Leinster played the Dragons. Now, anybody listened last week was said, and I can't be blamed, in all fairness, I think, for reckoning that Leinster were you would have assumed that Leinster were going to absolutely wipe the floor with Dragons as is standard. But they fucking didn't. They didn't. It was, hats off to the Dragons. Dragons gave it to them all right, but it was a sturgent enough affair, in all fairness, to finish up 7-6 to Leinster. But Jesus Christ, your man Max Deegan, he stood up. Man, he's huge, isn't he? He is massive. But I mean, the Dragons did themselves no favors, but it's fairness. When you see they went down to 13 men at one stage, and you're thinking, okay, it's curtains. It has to be curtains for them. No, in fairness, they stuck in there and they should be very happy with it. At the same time, I think Leinster, but like they weren't completely shorn. They didn't put out the lads who just made their communion. There was a couple of internationals in there too, so. But then it is only the second round, and I'll get onto it, the likes of Munster and stuff. And even the other two provinces who essentially, flattered to the sea possibly at the minute. I know people are going to be raging at me for saying that, but the reality is that it is just a second round. They still got to fucking win. So hats off to them. It was good to see the likes of Dan Levy back. I don't know where they're going to crowbar him in because he's an out and out 7. I mean, the man would put his face where you wouldn't put somebody else's leg. But it's good to see him back. But at the same time, Josh van der Fleer is absolutely flying it. And you won't be shifting him at this stage. Like, he is like a man reborn. Like I said, must be in the salt baths or something. Class. But you would have expected, it wasn't that bad of a day either at Rodney Parade. It looked all right. There's been rougher days there. It was raining a bit, I think, but not too bad. But yeah, 7-6. Wouldn't read too much into it. When they start hitting their straps, they'll be all right. But in fairness, as you'd hear a lot of people saying, Leinster have a lot of money in the bank. I should say credit in the bank. Well, they have money in the bank. Totally have money in the bank. Are you joking me? Do you know my father does? They do. They've plenty of credit in the bank in that sense because they tend to come good. And they've won trophies in recent times. Like, so you can say their heads aren't on chopping blocks. They're not really under a ton of pressure because they're like, oh, relax. We're good. We've been good for ages and we'll still be good even when we're kind of playing shite and just about clipping Dragons, 7-6. It'll be all right. We'll be okay. And they're right. People are right to think that way. I would say probably the big pressure ones this weekend, even though all four provinces came away with wins. 3, I think, got, let me see, was it 3 of them got bonus points? Yeah, 3 of them got bonus points. So, not to be sniffed at the same time. So the competition is kind of still going the fucking way it was always going. I know the South Africans have been introduced and stuff and they're hoping that they'll come right. But a lot of people are saying, oh, when their Springboks come back. But the reality is a lot of our Springboks are already playing for other teams. You know what I mean? So in the competition or in France or somewhere else. And not an awful lot of them will be coming back to these clubs. But there will be an improvement and they probably will get into it a small bit. Probably the game of the weekend was, I should have really left it to the end. The game of the weekend really was Connacht versus the Bulls. Also because it was set up in such a way because, coach Jake White was kind of going, yeah, well, it's where Dublin players go and they can't get a contract anywhere else. They go to Connacht. It's the province that wants to be like all the other provinces. There was fucking uproar over it. But at the same time, he wasn't a million miles off the mark. It's kind of always been that way, unfortunately, because Connacht they've less moolah when it comes to it. So I know you're not supposed to say it. That's the thing about the flat South Africans. Like they will say, I'm just telling the truth because, they're originally derived from Dutch people who are very, very plain and flat and in your face when it comes to these things. They won't dress it up in any which way. He's kind of right. But he got his trousers pulled down as a result of it because the game finished up 34-7. And they open. I think the Bulls opened up and I went, oh, Jesus Christ, because they got nipped last week. They just about got caught last week. They got caught, and I was like, fuck's sake, Connacht. Everybody else is winning. What are you doing? But in fairness, they got back on track. And it looked, when the Bulls opened up at their first one, it was a good try. It was like, oh, shit. But, like I said last week about the Western rain, when it starts coming in sideways, ooh, Nelly, you better be ready to do it. But then all of a sudden, slick hands, very nice hands. And in fairness, that's where Connacht need to get back to. You can train that. You can train really good hands. you know, like they had when they won the what was it, the Pro 12 at the time. Their hands were impeccable. They were so fit. So, I mean, you don't need Quade Cooper-esque stuff. You just need to bring your ball to the toilet with you, bring it to mass, to bed, to wherever, bring it to your wedding with you. Bring the ball everywhere. It's schoolboy stuff, but your hands get seriously familiar with it. You know, you're just bouncing off a wall, bouncing off whatever. The catch pass thing. Simple. It's simple, but you look how Japan do it. It's nothing too flashy, just at 100 miles an hour, they're able to pass confidently at full tilt. And once you can kind of master that, you don't really need the big, massive profile players. And you can just literally pass out of tackles and just get your hands free, get the ball gone faster than they can get to you and tackle. It's simple as that. You know, of course, it's always nice when you have a couple of game breakers, you know, people who can just do weird things with their hips, like the likes of Damien Delande, who's just weird. He doesn't look like he's traveling, even though he's a big 16-stone man. Like, you're kind of going, is he going faster? But then you see other people trying to catch him. He just looks so relaxed. That's a freak of nature. But you don't really need that if you've got quality hands. And that drive, Tiernan O'Halloran's try, he's a fella I always not feel sorry for, but, you know, he's kind of another unsung hero who did, yes, not to be felt sorry for. He's a fully professional in a, you know, pro rugby player in a class city, in a team that wins a large proportion of their games, but just, you know, relevant to the other provinces. He's probably a guy who didn't get a fair shake of the stick when it comes to it. But then, you know, who you up against, you know, fucking Hugo there, like he ain't going anywhere for a while. That young fella's just getting better and better and better. And then now you've Simon Zebo back, and you've Mike Haley playing out of their skin. So, as a fella says, he may do well with it. Tom Daly, the two Toms in the centre. I love it. They look in both class. You know what I mean? Is it it's not Tom Collins, Tom Daly and Jesus, people are shouting at me now. I cannot remember his name. The two Toms, both looking absolutely class in the centre, and really, I think, should be looked at for Ireland. You know, they're two quality bits of stuff. I mean, if they could play together for a long time, because sometimes the sum of the parts when it comes to centre pairing, you know, that's probably why, to be honest, and I hate saying it, but Bundy Aki going to the Lions, yeah, he's a brick of a man. He's a really good centre. But you could argue that Gary Ringrose is a better centre. But the truth be told, it's that Robbie Henshaw was always going to start. And they possibly saw, you know, a bullock of a man who has played a lot of his earlier career together with Robbie Henshaw. So sometimes the sum of parts can be better than the individual players. So those two lads, keep an eye on them. I like the way they operate at 12 or 13. Do you know what I mean? And can't go anywhere without, Jesus Christ, to catch a ball in Galway full stop in the Pistons array is unreal. But to catch it at full tilt over your, you know, out of the air at full tilt and not break stride and run 60 meters around about 10 players up and down the pitch, running around them like a pinball and score a try. Jesus Christ, where was this lad found? Mac Hansen, cool name too, Mac. What's your name? Mac. Yes, fucking Mac Hansen. I thought we were saying Matt incorrectly. I was saying Matt Hansen. Matt Hansen just, yeah, he does sound like he'd be an Australian rugby player or maybe a cartoonist or something. But Mac is a cool name. He's, yeah, Australian guy. Apparently they found him out of the Brumbies. His mother's from Cork, I think. So he's Irish qualified anyway. And he hasn't played for the senior team. I think he played under 20s or something like that for Australia. So, you know, and if he can back that up, I mean, that's not a freak occurrence. That's a freak athlete that can pull that off. That's, you know, like Andrew Conway's showreel will forever have that one against Toulouse where he caught the ball over his head on a lovely dry day in Thomond, a pitch you know as well. But he caught the ball over his head in the 70 whatever minute and got him through to the semi-final as a result by, you know, pegging it around 10 players who were all knackered. But like to do that in the rain, it doesn't, like, even to catch it at full tilt and not break stride, class. It was a class try, and it looked one for the ages. Great show. Pity wasn't actually. I mean, I love Galway, but at the same time, pity wasn't a better scene with more cameras. You know what I mean? To catch every bit of that. You know, the shit hot cameras like they'd have in Twickenham or the Aviva or whatever, just to catch every bit of that. You know, they run alongside him. But brilliant game. And and Leinster or Ulster, I should say, back, of course, in winning ways. They put, I mean, we kind of knew it was going to happen anyway. We kind of knew, but they closed out Zebra. It was a fucking hiding. You know what I mean? A lot of youngsters in that squad that I like. You know, you've that chap McElroy, calm as can be, no crack out of that lad. He scores a try. That's just it. Grand scored it. You know, like there's maybe it's just wants to keep the head down because he's young or whatever. But you know, you can celebrate. You can celebrate a little bit. Like I scored 2 tries, but my delight was Craig Gilroy, who he's just one of those cool fellas who's just he'd gone through his career, got a couple of Ireland caps and whatnot, and he's still pulling off moves. 2 unbelievable assists for Addison's try. Oh, beautiful! And then cleaned up the other one then for what was his name? Hume's try. Just a flick. Oh, have a look at the highlights in that one. And it just showed, like, it just goes to show a fellow who's so relaxed in the game now is probably enjoying his rugby. Just here you go. Will Addison again running like he's not running. His face just calm as if a fellow was just listening to some music, yet his legs are doing 100 miles an hour. Love it. Brilliant. Like, I'll tell you one thing, Ulster, the only thing that'll break Ulster will be Ulster. If they don't have their own confidence in themselves, that'll be the only thing that does them in. Love it. I mean, Timothy, Jesus, he was a sevens player. He was playing 7 the other night. He can play 6, 7, and 8. Jesus Christ, he's massive. But when, like, he sidestepped and he went in for his try and he looked smooth, like he moved like a fucking back. Speaking of backs, this monster of a back on him. You could play handball off the fucking thing. And they were saying he was a sevens player. You're like, Jesus, they're normally light fellas who can nip around the place. Like, he's put on a lot of timber, I'm guessing, since the sevens days, but still got the skill. You know, I mean, I know they're going to flog the life out of Vermeulen, but at the same time, I think maybe run, you know, I don't know who's going to elbow out of the way, but I think that was the reason for moving Timothy over to 7, because they want to keep him on the field. You know, because Vermeulen is going to take the 8 jersey, like, for at least 60, 70 minutes a game. Or maybe they'll just run the wheels off him. And it'll be great to see it. But he's coming into a winning way. Still don't like that yellow jersey. I'm sorry. There's been a few fuck-ups with the jersey. I didn't like Leinster's one either the other night. And I'm not a big fan of the Munster one. Look, it goes through it. You just have combos, I guess. But I'm not a fan of the jerseys this year. Just saying. Very good performance, I have to say. Convincing. Oh, wait. They were never going to fucking lose to Zebra, but at the same time, you know what I mean? In saying that, they could, you know, Zebra have done magical things in recent enough times, but they just put him to the sword, just annihilated him and made him look bad. A lot down to the likes of Craig Kilroy's just cuteness. And then you get the likes of your man Timothy, who's just hungry. He's just brilliantly hungry. And of course, we had my beloved Munster. And I said, my beloved Munster, I'm getting more and more less, I suppose, more and more less bias. I'm just getting less bias. It's probably a more grammatically correct way to say that. But weirdest match of the weekend in the URC, I would imagine, if you'll probably agree with me. Weird. Just straight up weird. Munster sound asleep and getting ragdolled around the place, couldn't get their hands on the ball for the first half. Like 15-0 at one stage. Like, you go, what the fuck is happening here? Like what is actually happening? They just couldn't, they looked lost. And when they did get the ball at one stage, they just, you know, were trucking it up. One runner out, one ball out, first up to crash in. Craig Casey booting in the fucking air. You're like, lads, you were scoring class tries last weekend, putting it through the fucking hands. What are you doing? What are you doing? Put it through. What are you doing? Now, here's the thing. Now, I know his pack were kind of going backwards a small bit, but Craig Casey needs a bit more maturity, obviously, and it'll come. Maturity is around experience as to how to steady that ship. Joey possibly, his packer going backwards, so he's not. Still looks shy. He still looks shy. You know what I mean? I don't know. Is it just lack of game time? I'm guessing it is that. Is he concerned about injury and stuff like that? He can do magical things when he needs to do magical things, but he was slipping off a few tackles and stuff like that. Just looked a bit shy. You need him on point. You just need him on point. So, I mean, it was weird. They looked like, people were saying, did Stormers run out of gas? They didn't. Like, they had no other plan after that once Munster assessed what they were after doing. And they had the common sense to sort it out. Now, I tell you one thing. I'd say that'll be the last time we'll see Earlsey inside the centre. Because he's only just back. After bringing out a new line of coffee. The last thing that man needed to be doing was inside the fucking centre. Jesus Christ. Dan Goggin was dropped completely out of it. Goggin had an all right game last week, but, his hands were a bit gammy and stuff like that. But he had an all right game. But Earls, he just did not look comfortable. Like, this is a guy who's got unbelievable defense setups out. Even though he doesn't have to put in smash tackles and stuff like that, his reading of defense from the wing is outstanding. How he can just coax fellas and just kind of slightly usher fellas into contact and just keep away from his line from getting around him and stuff. It's unbelievable. So I'd say it'll be the last time we'll see him in the centre this season anyway. They just slung him in there, I guessing to see what way it'll work out for, because they'll end up be back for a bit and then he'll have to go away again. I don't know where Chris Farrell, I'm assuming, is still on the injury list. I can only assume he is anyway. It's not like he was away with the Lions or anything like that. So Rory Scandal, I thought he got the 50-22. He's still playing a blinder. Man, what a boot he's got. What a boot he's got. But Munster turned around in the second half. Literally, it was a game of two halves. In 11 minutes, they had 3 tries in the second half. So, I mean, that shit doesn't happen by accident either. It wasn't like the Stormers completely went, right, they're finished, so we'll just park the bus and just fucking do nothing. Munster assessed what was after happening, corrected it fairly quickly, got the ball back. That's the number one thing. Got the ball back, moving the point of contact. You know what I mean? And that's what they were doing. You could see it. It wasn't just trying to plow fellas down. I mean, it was the rope-a-dope if you consider it that way. But and people say, "Oh, it's worrying signs." It is worrying enough signs, but to win dirty, to be down that much in the first half and come out in the second half with your plan changed and execute your plan and get a bonus point, 4 try bonus point in the end, because I finished up 13-18. I know people are kind of going, "Oh, I didn't tell the full story." It fucking did know. No true scoreline tells you the story unless it's like 80-0. It doesn't tell you the story. But they got their shit together in the second half. And again, like I said at the top of the show, it was just the second game of the season. I mean, good signs. O'Mahony, he's not getting any younger, but he looks sharp as shit. He looks sharp as hell. Save that certain try in the first half by getting his fingers underneath. People are like, "Oh, Jesus, now he got his fingers underneath it." Like, in all fairness, if Rhys Ruddock did that, they'd go, classic Leinster. Classic Leinster. I'm not bitching here. And the reason for it is correct. Leinster have a load of credit in the bank. And they're saying, there's pressure on Munster because they have all the tools really now. They have it. So they should, But I think people jump the gun a small bit. Look at it for what it is. It's the second game of the season. Yeah, and they did, Stormers did, I suppose the heads went down too about 50 minutes in when they realized, oh, Jesus Christ. They went down a bit. But I did like Ben Healy coming on with those stones again. He wants that jersey. And that's a sign of a number 10, a serious number 10 who pays nobody any respect. Or the other person holding the jersey. They're like, I'm as good as. I think I deserve it just as much as anybody. And you gotta like that. He's banging him over from 50 meters out. He wanted to, again this week, he wanted to go for one that was even further back. He's a show off, like, and that's fucking class. I love to see that. Now, he can get the back line going the way, the way a fella really can, standing up flat, the way the likes of Johnny Sexton can get a back line moving, with the move of his hips and stuff like that, just create a little bit of space, maybe the odd dummy pass and then give it out the back. A couple of loop plays wouldn't hurt, just to get those big old long legs of his moving. It'll sharpen up Joey. It'll help the two of them. I don't know how they're going to give all these lads games, but right now, Joey's got to pull up his socks and get some. Now, watch. I say that they play this weekend, and all of a sudden, it'll be fucking incredible stuff. It'll be incredible stuff. It make all just click at the one time, and it helps that the team are winning. And Mike Haley again. Mike Haley and Rory Scannell. Mr. Dependables. Misters Dependables. Just Haley doing all the right things. And man, he must be a bigger bloke than he looks. He always seems to get that extra meter, like in the tackles. You can't ask for, and he's, doesn't drop the ball. He was doing some silly shit the first time he came, because he was just, I suppose he was probably just trying to put his name on the jersey, but now, you know what I mean? He knows that Old Zeebs is breathing down his fucking neck for that number 15 jersey. And, they probably both have sites in Ireland, because I think Haley can qualify, I think, through, can he? I think he can, actually. Has he? I think Haley's gotten a cap. Has he? He has, I think. He's gotten a cap. So it's nice to see it. It's bubbling along nicely. Zebo came on. There was nothing really for him to do at that stage. It was all going to be forward orientated. The likes of Gavin Coons again. Jesus Christ, he is essential. He has to, but he's young, you see. That's the great thing. He won't get too many injuries, being that size. His first cousins, in case you didn't know, this is genetics for you. His first cousins are those two lads from West Cork that were rowing in the Olympics. Do you know what I mean? Genetics, freaks. And he's class. Keenan Knox, they need him. He's going to be unbelievable. If he's that good already at 21, 22, because often front rowers don't hit their straps until they're 26, 27. You learned every dirty move there is, but he's so brutally strong. And he's, again, could be Ireland qualified. Do no harm to get him up to camp a few times just to show him the ropes. But of course, we can't go anywhere without saying, in my opinion, the try of the weekend. Individual, maddest looking try of the weekend, we'll call it, in case people are going to argue with me, oh, come on now. No. Yeah. Fucking Snyman. What's he doing? He's literally, as Dave Kilcoyne said, he's like something out of WWE. He's just tearing up the rule book, doing what he wants to do. Comes off the back of a line out. There was a penalty coming anyway because the legs got cut from underneath O'Mahony. Got it back, peeled off the back of the ruck with the ball in one fucking hand. Now, that's a thing that could be targeted in case, he's probably doing it forever, but if you see a guy with the ball in his hand, just dive at the ball and rip it out of his hand. I'm guessing maybe he's, look, it still looks class anyway, regardless. Spins around like fucking Michael Jordan and dunks it over the line. Go have a look. If you didn't see it this weekend, for the crack, go have a look. It was, it was glorious stuff. Just stuff the sort of shit that it's fine to win ugly and it's fine to keep it up the jumper. And old Munster loves a good ruck. But there's nothing like drawing eyes to the game than having a fucking nearly 7 foot tall Viking with tattoos, bit of a mohawk going on, cool beard, laughing, smiling, high-fiving, and then scoring tries by holding the ball in one hand, running for 10 meters, flicking around a few people, and just boom, over the line. That shit is good for rugby. Same like Simon Zebo doing that cool shit where he's flicking the ball with his foot where people don't even, isn't really picked up on camera, but it looks cool as shit. That stuff puts people in seats. A bit of fucking... The crowd once they know that they're there, because a lot of time players have the head down and they don't want to be showboating. No, or not. I'm not saying you got to be showboating either, but at the same time, make it known to your audience that you appreciate the shit out of them. Zebo gives the old Z sign the whole time. Why not just give a little fucking, little A fist to the audience. I'm glad they don't play too much music over it, but they do. They love playing a tune in Leinster. They love playing a tune in Leinster after every time they score, and they're big into it. I was watching I didn't watch a lot of the Premiership. I just picked up on one or two games. I watched the extended highlights. So the two I went for, of course, were London Irish, purely because I wanted to see Sean O'Brien have a row, which he fucking did. Of course, there was it wasn't really a headbutt in the end. They lost it themselves, basically, because of, I forget his name. He just kind of head to head, fucking hit the fuck back. It's just stupid shit, where they ended up going down 23-21 to Northampton. Of course, you've Dan Bigger on the fucking kick, on the kicking tee. He's going to get it. He gets a penalty in the dying minutes when they could have just closed out the fucking game without that stupid shit. But I watched Leicester and Saracens, the extended highlights of that, purely because, like I said, I do like Leicester. They're old school. There's a bit of fucking nostalgia there and what. And look, lads, I said it day one on, the introduction to this podcast, 3 episodes ago now at this stage, I could see them doing things. They've got Genge back. The dog is backing them. And that's what they fucking need. They've got a couple of class players after joining. Ford looks to the manner born again. He looks confident. And I don't know what Saracens were playing at. It was going to be all them. The game was theirs to win. And it looked like Saracens were away in a hack. Especially the first half, and it was that Saracens. It was their half. Even up until the 60th, 70th minute, it was looking like Saracens had it in the bag. Now, it wasn't an absolute humdinger of a game score-wise, but there was fucking dog in that. A lot of them fellas know each other well through the English squad. It was nice to see it. Fucking nice bit of niggle going on. But stupid shit then at the end. They took Farrell off. The fuck they took him off for, I'll never know. But they took him off, and right towards the end, it was, I suppose maybe it was a slap in the wrist. I don't know who did it, but they were 70-odd minutes in, and had a fucking penalty reversed. We're winning and had a penalty reversed because upon winning the penalty, somebody shoved one of the other players in you bet, and of course the ref just went, nah, that's a pure sickener. I'm reversing that. And Leicester went on to win 13-12. So, Saracens, if you were a coach there now in those 2 games, you'd be imagine it. Can you imagine it? Stupid shit that could be totally unavoidable or totally avoidable. And your fucking player does that. You, Jesus Christ, you bust all around you inside the dressing room. And rightly so. I didn't catch any of the rest of the games. It was just, life and whatnot. But I watched the extended. I watched the South African New Zealand match. Dinger. New Zealand South Africa doing things. You would Dale and this try. The out the back. Brad Barrett or fucking what's his name? Bowden Barrett's break. Some dirt stuff you just don't see from South Africa. And I wouldn't mind Rassie Erasmus is in his jocks. They cut back to him. He's at home. I don't know. Is he banned from the match or what the crack is? I didn't pick up on what the reason for. I just saw images on Twitter. He's in his jocks, allowing the live stream camera to be in his house, and he's there in the togs. It's all right, lad. The mouse could pop out of the house at any second. There, just be wide. I'd put on trousers myself if I was on national television, during my national team, who employs me. I'd put on trousers. I'm just saying, I probably would. But he didn't. I fucking love that. I fucking love that he didn't. But South Africa went on to win. They didn't win the championship overall, but they've moved back into first place. They won in the dying. Yeah, Yankees saved them. So it went up 31-29, which, to be fair, it was nail biting towards the very end. Ma Pimpy, what a name! I love that, Ma Pimpy. His try in the end, but it was But you know what? It's mad in South Africa. They're either beautiful people, players, really good-looking people, the lads playing for the Springboks, or they're absolute rhinoceroses, rhinoceri. Do you know what I mean? They're either straight, ringing the bells with a hunched back, or they're walking down the catwalk in Paris. There's such a contrast. There's no halfway marks with these lads. They're just absolutely fucking barbarian faced savages, or, you know, they're fucking dating Selena Gomez. Like, it's an interesting one, but they ended up winning. The clatter of the match was in that. I'll come back to it in a minute before we wrap up. But of course, Australia, I think it's their best run in a while in the championship. They look class. Argentina made a last out burst towards the end, but it finished up, I think it was 32-17. A Kellaway lad is something else. You know, I know he was on the end of these tries, but he's still got a bit of fucking work to do. Like, but big Foxy heading him. Shout out to the Foxy lad. Clearly, with a name like Kellaway and a big ginger heading him, he is not long gone from the fucking Emerald Isle. There's somebody there belonging to him. But yeah, I could do without the fucking try. Like, I just hate try music. I hate it, and it's some dose, I'd say, if you were in the state, and every time a try gets scored, they play the main then and that. Like, do you ever get sick of it? Is it ever a bit too much? Like, every single fucking try. I don't know what the purpose of it is. Do you have to be that? Are you not entertained enough by the try? Like, do you have to be? Does it have to be that as well? You know, I don't. Unless it was a sponsorship song, you know, like a new song that's out now, and Apple Music have paid, you know, 20,000 for it to be played after every try. Then I get it. But if you're just playing, I come from LinkedIn, and we know you're playing for Australia. You don't have to tell us. We get it. 6'10" and full of muscles. No, you're fine. Just let the crowd cheer and applaud for, you know, 30 seconds or whatever. Get back to the halfway line. It's fine. You don't have to do that shit. And that goes for everywhere. I remember being at a Leinster-Munster match years ago. Oh my Jesus. I was sitting beside a bunch of Germans. And these fucking langers weren't watching the match. They were just, you knew like 5 years previous they weren't into rugby, but this is his hair, and they were just steaming and just roaring, just a fucking dose. And I remember there was like cheerleaders. They'd lost a fucking run of themselves. Leinster had cheerleaders. They had fireworks after tries and music playing, and it was everything that an old cranky old bastard like me doesn't like in rugby. But thankfully, I think it's died down a bit. I think it's gone with the fucking gone to the hills. Can you imagine having to tackle your man Karevi in the centre? Can you imagine it, like? Man Quaid Cooper gives the 2-pump pass. That's what they call that. Like, gives a pump once, makes him jingle a little bit, makes your man swing back in, and then on the second pump gives it out to Karevi. So your man just sailed in over. So I'd say if there was a fucking cow in his way, he would have kicked that thing out of the way too. Like, he just legs. Oh no, thanks. No, thank you very much. And my clatter of the weekend was on Damien McKenzie in the dying minutes when, I don't know. I didn't see it. I didn't think it was a penalty. It was Franz Steyn absolutely melted. Now there's a bit of a size difference there, all right, but it's there. I go have a gander at it. It was in the dying minutes. I don't think, you know, it thankfully, South Africa ended up winning anyway, because it would have been absolutely, you know, criminal had they not won. Because I don't think it was a penalty. New Zealand got a penalty off the result of this tackle. The tackle was on the money, folded him in half like a fucking origami, like a napkin. Absolutely folded him. It was beautiful. They made out then that, you know, he didn't release, or he was going for the ball, but he wasn't back on his feet. And I don't think so. I think he got it wrong. I think the ref got it wrong there. Gave a penalty to New Zealand. They went ahead with the penalty, but thankfully South Africa went up the field and got another one to clinch it. I don't think it should have been. Was an absolute glory buster. It was beautiful tackle. Clean as you like. In fairness to McKenzie, he didn't make a big fucking deal of it, but he did. He's a hardy bastard anyway, but he got absolutely cream crackered. He got folded in half. Go have a gander at it. Beautiful stuff. Another round of games coming up this weekend. We'll have no internationals, but I mean, the autumn internationals aren't far too away. I will have a guest next week. We'll be back again. I'm a day late because the week just got away from me, but I'll be back again next Tuesday with another one. In between then, I will be putting up some of the old interviews, evergreen interviews from some of the rugby players that I chatted with on Buckshot, because it might be a bit tricky to people to go rooting and looking for them if you're very new to me and all the rest of it. I'll put them up on whatever platform you normally listen to. I know people probably watching this on YouTube, but if you look through the show notes, you'll have a link to all things related to the podcast. So you'll be able to go find it there. Go hit subscribe on the Cracked Rugby podcast if you are, if you're a YouTubey person. If you're not, and you have hit subscribe already, beautiful. These will be coming your way. Keep you occupied. Bit of crack was had with all these people. Till then, if you want to sponsor or support the podcast, there's a Patreon page. It'd be fantastic if you did. If you do become a Patreon between now and Sunday, why not come join us for an old drinky poo, bit of loosey-goosey chat on Sunday evening with the rest of the Patreons. But till then, by his girls and everything in between, this has been lovely. Good luck and thanks.